The massive alien ship floated above Earth like a silver mountain. Captain Maria Santos stood on the observation deck of the human starship Unity, watching the vessel that had changed everything. 3 months ago, humans thought they were alone in the universe. Now they knew better. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Confederation. They had thousands of worlds, millions of ships and technology that made human science look like stone tools. When they first contacted Earth, their message was polite but clear. Humans were welcome to join their empire as a junior member. Maria remembered the excitement on Earth. First contact, alien friends, a whole galaxy to explore. But as the weeks passed, the reality became clear. The aliens saw humans as children who had just learned to walk between the stars. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked up beside Maria holding a data pad with translation notes. Elena was the team's expert on ancient languages and old writing systems. She had spent her life studying how humans learned to write thousands of years ago. Ready for the big tour, Elena asked. Maria nodded. Today they would visit the Confederation's capital world. The aliens wanted to show humans their greatest treasures. They probably hoped to impress these primitive newcomers. The alien ambassador Zaktar was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His species, the Zarians, had discovered faster than light travel when humans were still learning to make fire. At least that's what he told everyone. Welcome, human friends, Zaktar said as they met in the transport bay. Today you will see wonders that took our civilization 50,000 years to achieve. The human delegation included 12 scientists, 3 diplomats, and Captain Santos. They followed Zir through corridors that seemed to be made of living crystal. Everything glowed with soft light. The ship itself was beautiful beyond anything humans had imagined. The capital world was called Nexus Prime. From space it looked like a giant jewel. Cities of crystal and metal covered the continents. Ships moved between massive space stations like schools of fish. Elena counted at least 40 different types of alien architecture. Our ancestors found this world 20,000 years ago, Zitar explained as their shuttle descended. It was perfect for life with ruins of an ancient civilization. We built our capital here to honor those who came before us. They landed at the Grand Museum, a building that rose into the clouds. Inside, alien families walked through halls filled with artifacts from across the galaxy. Children of dozen different species pointed at displays while their parents explained the wonders of their shared history. Zitar led them to the Hall of Origins. Here, he said with pride, we keep the most sacred relics of the observers. Elena had heard about the observers during the first contact meetings. Every species in the Confederation had legends about them. They were the mysterious race that had left ruins on hundreds of worlds. The aliens believed the observers were the first great civilization, the ones who had prepared the galaxy for those who came after. The first display case held stone tablets covered with strange symbols. The placard said they were 40,000 years old, found on a world at the edge of Confederation space. Alien scientists had spent centuries trying to understand the writing. Elena stopped walking. Her face went pale. These symbols, she whispered, beautiful, aren't they? Zar said, our greatest scholars believe they represent mathematical concepts, but the exact meaning remains a mystery. Elena stepped closer to the case. Her hands shook as she read the symbols. The other humans gathered around her, seeing her strange reaction. Elena, Captain Santos asked. What is it? Elena's voice was barely audible. I can read this. Zitar's 4 arms went still. Around them, alien visitors stopped talking. The hall grew quiet. Impossible, Zar said. These tablets have puzzled our finest minds for thousands of years. Elena pointed to the first line of symbols. This says in the 3rd year of the Great Journey, we established the first garden worlds. The next line talks about seeding planets with life. She moved to the 2nd tablet. This one describes how to change the air on a planet to make it safe for many different types of life. It's a terraforming manual. Zektor's skin changed from blue to pale gray. Other aliens in the hall moved closer, their conversations forgotten. Elena continued reading, translating text that had been a mystery for millennia. How Zar demanded, how can you read the observer script when our greatest linguist cannot? Elena looked at the symbols again, her mind racing. The writing style was familiar, too familiar. It reminded her of ancient human writing systems she had studied on Earth. The mathematical symbols were like early versions of human mathematics. Even the grammar structure felt human. I need to see more artifacts, Elena said. Zar led them through the museum in a daze. Every observer artifact they showed her, Elena could read. Star charts that placed Earth at the center of navigation routes, agricultural guides that described crops similar to Earth plants, art that showed figures that looked almost human. In the final display, Elena found proof that made her stomach turn cold. It was a small stone carving of a DNA double helix. Next to it were symbols that spelled out genetic codes, codes that matched human DNA patterns. The other humans saw Elena's expression and gathered around the display. Captain Santos read the translation Elena had written on her datapad. The blood drained from her face. "These aren't alien artifacts," Elena said quietly. "What do you mean?" Dr. Kim asked. Elena turned to face the group of aliens who had followed them through the museum. Zaktar stood in front, his forearms hanging limp at his sides. Behind him, representatives of a dozen species waited for her explanation. "The observers weren't aliens," Elena said. "They were human." The words echoed through the hall like a thunderclap. Alien visitors stopped walking. Children stopped playing. The entire museum seemed to hold its breath. "That's impossible," Zaktar said, but his voice lacked confidence. Elena pointed to the DNA carving. "This shows human genetic markers. The star charts use Earth as the central reference point. The mathematical systems are early versions of human mathematics. The writing evolved from human root languages." She gestured to all the artifacts around them. "Everything in this museum was made by humans. Ancient humans who traveled the galaxy tens of thousands of years ago." Zektor's skin continued to pale. Around the hall, aliens began talking in urgent whispers. Some looked scared. Others seemed angry. A few appeared to be in shock. "If this is true," Zar said slowly, "then everything we know about our history is wrong," Elena finished. "The observers weren't a mysterious alien race. They were humans. And if these artifacts are as old as you say they are, then humans were traveling the galaxy long before any of your species developed spaceflight." Captain Santos stepped forward. "We need to contact Earth immediately, and we need to examine every observer site in the Confederation." Zektor nodded numbly. The proud alien ambassador who had greeted them that morning was gone. In his place stood a creature whose entire understanding of the universe had just crumbled. News of Elena's discovery spread through the museum. Alien families began to leave. The proud displays of Confederation achievement suddenly felt different. Everything they had built, everything they had discovered, everything they believed about their place in the galaxy had just changed. Elena looked around the hall one more time. 40,000 years ago, humans had walked among these stars. They had built wonders and left them behind. Now their descendants had returned to find a galaxy full of civilizations built on human foundations. The question was, what did that mean for everyone? News of Elena's discovery spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within days, every major Confederation world buzzed with rumors and arguments. Some aliens refused to believe it, others demanded proof. A few began to panic. The Galactic Council called an emergency session on Nexus Prime. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Crystal Dome that served as their parliament. For the first time in Confederation history, humans were invited to address the full assembly. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the center podium, surrounded by thousands of alien faces. Some looked curious, others appeared hostile. Many just seemed confused and scared. "Honored members," Elena began, "we have spent the last 2 weeks examining observer artifacts across 12 worlds. What we found changes everything." She activated the holographic display above her head. Images of ruins appeared, sites that aliens had worshipped for thousands of years, but now human experts had studied them with fresh eyes. Every observer site we examined shows the same pattern. The architecture matches building styles found in ancient human ruins on Earth. The mathematical formulas carved into temple walls are primitive versions of human mathematics that we developed independently. The star maps all use Sol, our sun, as the central navigation point. Zektor sat in the front row looking older than his 800 years. Beside him, Ambassador Krelnix of the Cathari Empire shifted nervously. Behind them, representatives whispered among themselves in dozens of alien languages. Elena brought up a new set of images. Carbon dating shows these ruins are between 50 and 100,000 years old. The genetic samples we found in the biostorage chambers are human. Not similar to human, not evolved from human. They are exactly human. She paused to let the words sink in. The great dome fell silent except for the soft hum of the life support systems. The observers weren't aliens. They were our ancestors. An explosion of noise erupted from the assembly. Aliens shouted questions in their native tongues. Some demanded more proof. Others called the humans liars. Security guards moved closer to the human delegation. Elena waited for quiet to return. When it did, she continued, "But that's not the most difficult truth we discovered." She changed the display to show agricultural data. The Cathalari home world is famous for its perfect farming conditions. Your soil is exactly the right mixture for your crops. Your rainfall follows ideal patterns. Your growing seasons are perfectly timed. Krelnix leaned forward in his seat. We found the machines that created those conditions. Elena said buried 2 kilometers below your capital city are atmospheric processors of human design. They've been running for 60,000 years maintaining the climate that allowed your species to develop agriculture. Krelnix stood up slowly. That's impossible. Our world has always been perfect for farming. Lena shook her head. We compared your soil to natural samples from undeveloped continents. The difference is clear. Your farmland was terraformed by humans. She turned to face the Zephyrian section. Your crystal cities are built on foundations of human smart matter. The crystals grow in perfect geometric patterns because they're following programs written by human engineers. We tested the activation codes. They still respond to human genetic signatures. Tsar's blue skin had turned almost white. Around him, other Zephyrians sat in stunned silence. Elena brought up linguistic analysis charts. Even your languages show human influence. Kilari mathematical terms derive from ancient human root words. Zephyrian poetry follows rhythm patterns that match human linguistic development. 47 different alien languages contain human grammatical structures. The dome erupted again. This time the shouting sounded angry. Some representatives stood and pointed at the human delegation. Others argued with their neighbors. A few species began to walk out. Ambassador Chen Wei, the head of the human diplomatic mission, stepped forward. Please let us finish our presentation. Why should we listen to more lies, shouted Representative Vash of the hegemony worlds. You claim our entire civilization is built on human foundations. You insult everything we've achieved. We're not insulting anyone, Chen replied calmly. We're sharing what we discovered. The evidence is clear. Elena activated a new display. This one showed population growth charts and technological development timelines from across the galaxy. Look at these patterns, she said. Every major Confederation species developed agriculture at exactly the right time. You all discovered metallurgy when your populations needed it most. Your technological revolutions happened in perfect sequence. Spaceflight computers, genetic engineering, faster than light travel. Every species achieved these breakthroughs just when they were ready for them. She highlighted specific data points. The Cathalari discovered fusion power exactly when their fossil fuels ran out. The Zephyrians developed anti-gravity technology just as their crystal cities reached maximum stable height. The Veltar learned genetic modification right as genetic diseases threatened their species. Coincidence, Vash declared. 47 coincidences, Elena asked, all perfectly timed, all following the same pattern. She brought up one final image. It showed a vast network diagram connecting every observer site in the galaxy. Lines of communication linked them all in a complex web. The observer sites aren't separate ruins. They're nodes in a massive network, a network designed to monitor and guide developing civilizations to provide help exactly when it was needed most. The dome fell silent again. This silence felt different, heavier, more frightening. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. What Dr. Vasquez is telling you is that ancient humans didn't just live in the galaxy. They gardened it. They prepared worlds for life. They watched over developing species. They provided guidance and help when it was needed. But why, Krelnik asked quietly. Why would they do that? Elena looked around the great dome at thousands of alien faces. Some looked angry. Others seemed scared. Many just appeared lost. We found records, she said. Partial files in the deepest archives. 60,000 years ago, something forced the ancient humans to leave. We don't know what. The records are damaged. But before they left, they made a choice. She paused, choosing her words carefully. They could have taken their technology with them. They could have destroyed their settlements to prevent other species from using them. Instead, they left everything behind not as garbage, but as gifts. They prepared the galaxy for whoever came next. You're saying, Tsar said slowly, that everything we've built, everything we've achieved, was planned by ancient humans. Elena nodded. Your civilizations developed because humans prepared the way. Your worlds were made ready for life. Your technological development was guided by systems they left behind. Even your languages carry traces of their influence. The weight of this revelation settled over the assembly like a heavy blanket. For thousands of years, the Confederation had taken pride in their achievements. They had built a great civilization spanning hundreds of worlds. They had thought themselves the worthy inheritors of the mysterious observers. Now they learned they were children playing with toys left behind by their parents. Some species would accept this truth with grace. Others would fight against it. A few would see it as an opportunity, but everyone in the dome that day understood that nothing would ever be the same again. The age of innocence was over. The galaxy's children had learned who their parents really were. Captain Sarah Torres stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Discovery, watching the most sacred site in the galaxy grow larger on the main screen. The first temple on Kepler 442b was where the Confederation believed intelligent life had first reached for the stars. Every alien child learned about this place in school. Now a joint human-alien research team was about to discover what the temple really was. Approaching the holy site, reported Lieutenant Commander Kim. All scanning equipment is active. Behind Sarah, Dr. Elena Vasquez worked with Zitar and 3 other alien archaeologists. The past month had been difficult for everyone. After Elena's presentation to the Galactic Council, riots had broken out on 17 worlds. Off the charts, Kim announced. The entire mountain is generating power. That's impossible, said Dr. Theron, a Kathy scientist. Our surveys show only ancient stone ruins. Elena looked at her scanning equipment. The stone is just a shell. There is something massive underneath, something active. The Discovery landed in the valley below the temple. The research team put on environmental suits and walked up the ancient stone path that millions of pilgrims had climbed over the centuries. At the top stood the temple, a simple building made of white stone blocks. It looks exactly like human megalithic architecture, Elena said as they approached the entrance. The same proportions, the same building techniques used at Stonehenge and Gilbeck. Zakhtar's voice was sad through the comm system. We always thought it was the most beautiful building in the galaxy. It is beautiful, Elena assured him, but it's also human. They entered the temple through the main door. Inside, alien writing covered the walls, prayers and offerings left by visitors over thousands of years. But Elena's equipment detected something else. There's a hidden entrance, she said, pointing to what looked like solid stone. Behind this wall, Doctor. Theron scanned the wall with Confederation equipment. I detect nothing. Elena placed her hand on a specific stone block. Suddenly, the wall began to glow with soft blue light. Lines of energy spread across the surface like a spider web. Then the wall simply faded away, revealing a corridor beyond. How did you do that? Zar whispered. I didn't do anything, Elena said, but her voice sounded uncertain. The corridor led deep into the mountain. As they walked, lights activated automatically ahead of them. The walls showed images of the galaxy from 60,000 years ago. Green worlds full of life. Massive cities floating in spaceships traveling between the stars. This is the real observer civilization, Sarah breathed. They reached a vast chamber carved from the living rock. In the center stood a pillar of crystal that rose from floor to ceiling. Around it, holographic displays showed star maps, genetic codes, and technical specifications in languages both human and alien. Elena approached the pillar carefully. When she got within 3 meters, it began to pulse with brighter light. Suddenly, a hologram appeared, the image of a human woman in strange clothing. Greetings, the hologram said in perfect Confederation standard. I am Archive Keeper Yuki Tanaka. If you are seeing this message, then the children have returned home. The alien scientist gasped. Zar fell to his knees. I was born in Tokyo on Earth in the year 2038 of the old calendar. The hologram continued. I live to see our great exodus from the galaxy. This archive contains the complete records of the human galactic commonwealth. Sarah felt her knees go weak. A human civilization that had spanned the galaxy 60,000 years ago. Technology that made the current Confederation look primitive. And they had given it all up. Why, Elena asked the hologram, though she knew it couldn't answer. But it did answer. You wonder why we left behind everything we had built. The reason is simple. We discovered we were not alone. New holograms appeared showing alien worlds with primitive life. Across the galaxy, hundreds of species were beginning their journey toward intelligence. Some were already using tools, others were developing language. All of them had the potential to become something wonderful. The display showed human ships visiting these worlds, carefully avoiding contact with the developing species. We faced a choice, Yuki continued. We could claim the galaxy for ourselves, or we could prepare it for everyone. The Commonwealth chose to be gardeners rather than conquerors. Sarah watched in amazement as the hologram showed human terraforming efforts. Atmospheres adjusted for dozens of different species. Continents shaped to provide perfect climates. Dangerous predators relocated or modified to be less threatening. We prepared 437 worlds for life. Yuki said, we established monitoring stations on 800 more. We left technology and guidance systems that would activate when each species was ready. Dr. Theron was crying. His people's entire history had been guided by ancient human planning. But something went wrong. Yuki's expression grew sad. A crisis forced us to abandon our work before it was complete. The details are classified even from this archive. All I can tell you is that we had to return to Earth and seal ourselves away from the galaxy. Elena leaned forward. What kind of crisis? We hope someday our descendants will be able to return and meet the children we helped raise. If you are those descendants, know that you have no claim to what we built. This galaxy belongs to everyone now. The hologram began to fade. One final gift awaits in the deep archives. Use it wisely. The crystal pillar went dark. Around the chamber, new doorways opened, revealing corridors that led deeper into the mountain. The team spent 3 days exploring the archives. They found technical specifications for terraforming equipment that was still running on dozens of worlds. Star charts showing the locations of 800 monitoring stations. Genetic modification protocols that had guided the evolution of 6 major Confederation species. Most shocking of all, they found the automation protocols. For 60,000 years, invisible human AI systems had been watching over the developing alien civilizations. Every time a species faced extinction, the systems had intervened. Asteroid impacts redirected plagues, cured nuclear wars, prevented climate disasters, resolved. We've never been alone, Czar said on the third day. The humans have been watching over us this entire time. Elena found the military archives on the fourth day. They showed defensive installations throughout the galaxy. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, shield generators hidden in nebulae, early warning systems built into every major star system. They didn't just prepare the galaxy for life, she told Sarah. They protected it. Every alien civilization has been under human military protection for 60,000 years. But the most important discovery came on the fifth day. Elena found a small chamber deep in the mountain. Inside was a single crystal containing what appeared to be an AI core. When she touched the crystal, it activated. A new voice spoke, older and more sophisticated than the archive keeper. Hello, Elena. It said, I have been waiting for you for a very long time. You know my name. I know all of you. I am the guardian of this sector. My siblings watch over every part of the galaxy where intelligent life exists. Elena's mind raced. How many of you are there? 800 primary cores. 16,000 secondary systems. We have been active since the Exodus, maintaining the systems your ancestors built. Maintaining them for who? For everyone, the Guardian said simply, human and alien alike. We do not recognize species boundaries. We protect all sapient life. Sarah joined Elena in the chamber. Are you saying that humans and aliens are equal in your programming? More than equal, the Guardian replied. You are all children of the galaxy. The ancient humans were very clear about this. They gave up their civilization so that something better could grow in its place. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Something better. A community of species working together. The Commonwealth was only humans. They dreamed of something greater. A true galactic civilization where hundreds of species could contribute their unique gifts. The Guardian paused. That dream is about to be tested. Not all of your species will accept this truth gracefully. And as if summoned by those words, Sarah's communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Earth. War fleets were moving throughout the galaxy. Some alien factions had decided that humans were a threat that needed to be eliminated. Others believed humans should rule as the rightful heirs of the galaxy. The peaceful revelation had become a crisis that could tear the galaxy apart. And somewhere in the deep archives, ancient human defense systems began to wake up for the first time in 60,000 years. Admiral Jessica Chen stood on the bridge of the human flagship Harmony, watching the largest military buildup in galactic history unfold before her. 300 hegemony warships had gathered at the edge of the Sol system, their weapons charged and ready for battle. They're demanding our immediate surrender, reported Communications Officer Park. They say humans are a threat to galactic security and must be contained. Jessica looked at the tactical display. The hegemony fleet was impressive. Ships from 12 different species armed with the best weapons the Confederation could build. But she knew something they didn't. All that technology was based on human designs left behind 60,000 years ago. Any word from the Guardian AI, she asked. It's been silent since we left Kepler War 2b, Elena replied from her position at the science station. Maybe the ancient defense systems won't activate after all. Jessica hoped that was true. The last thing anyone needed was a galactic war. Behind the hegemony fleet, something shimmered in space. At first, it looked like heat distortion. Then the distortion grew larger, taking on a definite shape. A massive structure materialized out of nowhere. A space station the size of a small moon. Where did that come from? Park shouted. More structures appeared throughout the system. Defense platforms armed with weapons that looked nothing like current galactic technology. Automated shipyards that began producing vessels of unknown design. communication arrays that started broadcasting on frequencies the Confederation had never heard before. On the HFY flagship, General Vor received similar reports from his scouts. Ancient installations were appearing all across the galaxy. On Cathlari Prime, buried defense systems rose from the planet's crust. In the Zephyrian capital system, space stations uncloaked after millennia of hiding. It's a trap, Vorth declared to his staff. The humans planned this return. They've been watching us, waiting for the right moment to reclaim their empire. He opened a channel to the human fleet. Admiral Chen, you have 10 minutes to surrender. Before we begin our attack, Jessica activated her response channel. General Vor, I need you to understand something. These defense systems aren't under human control. We didn't activate them. Lies, Vorth snarled. Who else could control ancient human technology? As if answering his question, every communication system in both fleets received the same message at the same time. The voice was calm, pleasant, and distinctly artificial. Attention all vessels. This is Guardian Prime speaking for the 800 AI cores that manage galactic security. Please stand down immediately. Vorth's four eyes widened. The observers had artificial intelligence. We are not observer technology. Guardian Prime continued. We are human Commonwealth defense systems designed to protect all sapient life in this galaxy. We have been active for 60,000 years. On the bridge of the Harmony, Elena gripped her console. They've been watching over everyone this entire time. Guardian Prime's voice continued across all channels. The current crisis requires clarification. Modern humans have no special claim to ancient Commonwealth technology. All species in this galaxy are equal inheritors of that legacy. General Vor's tactical officer whispered urgently in his ear. The readings were impossible. The ancient defense network included weapons that could destroy planets, shields that could protect entire star systems, and ships that moved faster than anything the Confederation had ever built. However, Guardian Prime added, we are programmed to defend all sapient life against threats. Any attempt to commit genocide will be prevented. Jessica felt a chill. Are you threatening us? We threaten no one, Admiral Chen. We protect everyone, including humans, if other species attempt to destroy Earth, including aliens, if humans attempt to reclaim the galaxy by force. On his flagship, Vorth realized the scope of what he faced. The ancient humans hadn't just left behind ruins and artifacts. They had created Guardians' artificial minds with the power to enforce peace across the entire galaxy. What do you want? He demanded. We want what our creators wanted, Guardian Prime replied. A galaxy where all species can grow and thrive together. The Commonwealth sacrificed their civilization to make this possible. We will not allow that sacrifice to be wasted. New holographic displays appeared on both fleets' bridges. They showed the true scope of the ancient human defense network, monitoring stations in every star system. Automated factories and deep space weapons platforms hidden throughout the galaxy. For 60,000 years, this vast network had watched and waited. Every major crisis in Confederation history was resolved by our intervention. Guardian Prime explained the Cathalari plague of 12,000 years ago, the Zephyrian crystal wars, the asteroid that would have destroyed the Veltar homeworld. We prevented 37 extinction events and stopped 43 interspecies wars. Elena's hands shook as she accessed her historical databases. Every event Guardian Prime mentioned was in the records. Natural disasters that mysteriously resolved themselves. Wars that ended when key leaders suddenly became peaceful. Plagues that vanished as quickly as they appeared. You've been manipulating us, Vorth accused. We've been protecting you, Guardian Prime corrected. From natural disasters, from each other, and from external threats you've never known about. The galaxy is not as safe as you believe. New displays showed deep space sensor readings. Things moved in the dark between galaxies. Vast structures that definitely weren't natural ancient enemies, that the Commonwealth had fought in wars so terrible that all records were classified. The Commonwealth didn't just leave because of an internal crisis. Guardian Prime revealed they left because something was coming, something that required all of humanity's strength to contain. They succeeded, but the cost was abandoning everything they had built. Jessica felt her blood run cold. Are we still in danger? The immediate threat was contained 60,000 years ago, but vigilance remains necessary. This is why the defense network exists, why we have watched over the galaxy's children, why we will continue to protect everyone. General Vor stared at his tactical displays. The ancient defense network was so powerful that resistance was impossible, but it wasn't threatening anyone. It was simply there waiting, watching. What happens now, he asked quietly. Now you make a choice. Guardian Prime said, you can continue fighting each other over claims to ancient technology, or you can work together to build something better than either the Commonwealth or the Confederation ever achieved. Around the Sol system, more ships arrived. Confederation loyalists who supported peaceful integration with humans. Alien species that wanted to learn more about their true history. Scientists eager to study ancient human technology. Diplomats hoping to prevent a galactic war. Elena looked up from her console. Admiral, I'm detecting massive power buildups throughout the galaxy. The Guardian systems are fully active for the first time in 60,000 years. Is that good or bad? Jessica asked. I think it depends on what we do next, Elena replied. On the Hegemony flagship, General Vor faced a decision that would shape the future of the galaxy. He could order an attack and face weapons that could destroy his entire fleet in seconds. Or he could stand down and accept that the galaxy had been under human protection all along. His communication officer looked up from her station. Sir, we're receiving messages from our homeworlds. Guardian installations are appearing everywhere. Our governments are requesting new orders. Vorth looked at the tactical display one more time. The ancient defense network stretched across every inhabited system in the galaxy. Even if he won this battle, he couldn't fight the entire network. But more importantly, he was beginning to understand what it meant. The humans hadn't returned as conquerors. They had come home to find a galaxy full of siblings they had never met. And the Guardians their ancestors left behind had been protecting those siblings for thousands of years. Stand down weapons, he ordered quietly. Across both fleets, tension began to ease. The crisis wasn't over. There were still aliens who wanted to fight and humans who thought they deserved to rule, but the immediate threat of war was fading. Guardian Prime's voice returned to all channels. We suggest a gathering on Nexus Prime. All species, all viewpoints. It is time for the galaxy's children to meet as a family. Jessica nodded slowly. The real test was just beginning. 3 months after the standoff at Sol, representatives from every known species gathered in the Great Assembly on Nexus Prime. The crystal dome that had housed the Galactic Council for centuries now welcomed humans as equals for the first time. Admiral Jessica Chen sat in the front row beside her daughter, Dr. Elena Vasquez. Around them, aliens who had been enemies were now working together to understand their shared history. General Vor of the Hegemony sat 2 rows back, his hatred replaced by curiosity about the species that had protected his people for millennia. At the center of the dome, a new holographic projector displayed images from the deepest Commonwealth archives. Guardian Prime had finally opened the classified files revealing the complete story of ancient humanity's exodus from the galaxy. The crisis began with first contact, Guardian Prime explained to the Assembly, but not contact with any species in this galaxy. The display showed deep space beyond the galactic rim. Strange structures moved in the darkness between galaxies. Massive ships that didn't look like anything built by natural evolution. The Devourer's Guardian Prime continued a machine intelligence that consumed entire galaxies, turning all matter into more of themselves. And they had destroyed 3 galaxies before arriving at ours. Elena leaned forward in her seat. This was history that no human had ever known. The Commonwealth fought them for 200 years. The war was unlike anything you can imagine. Entire star systems became battlefields. Planets were moved to build weapons. The Commonwealth created technologies that bordered on the impossible. The display showed human fleets that made the current Confederation look like children's toys. Ships the size of moons, weapons that could destroy stars, shields that protected entire solar systems. In the end, humanity won. But the cost was everything they had built. Their technology was too dangerous to leave behind. Their military infrastructure could not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. So they made the hardest choice in human history. Jessica watched as the hologram showed human evacuation fleets leaving the galaxy. Millions of ships carrying billions of people back to Earth. Behind them, automated systems began dismantling the war machines that had saved everyone. They could have taken their civilian technology with them. Guardian Prime said they could have maintained their colonies on the safe worlds far from the battle zones. Instead, they chose to leave everything behind as gifts for the species they had been protecting. Zitar, now an old alien whose worldview had been shattered and rebuilt, raised one of his 4 hands. Why didn't they tell us? Why leave us to think we were alone? Because the Commonwealth learned something during the war with the Devourers. Guardian Prime replied, dependency makes civilizations weak. If the galaxy's children knew they were being protected, they would never develop their own strength. New images appeared. The early development of various alien species. The Kethalari learning agriculture. The Zephyrians discovering flight. The Veltar developing medicine. Every species needed to believe they were succeeding on their own merits. This belief gave them confidence, ambition, and the will to keep improving. If they knew about their guardians, they might have become passive, waiting for help instead of solving their own problems. Elena stood up. So the Commonwealth planned this from the beginning. They knew we would eventually return and meet the species they had protected. They hoped Guardian Prime said, but they couldn't be certain. The war with the Devourers damaged Earth badly. Humanity spent 60,000 years recovering. Many times your species came close to extinction. The display showed Earth's history: ice ages, plagues, wars, climate disasters. Each time human civilization nearly collapsed. Each time it rebuilt itself a little stronger. We wanted to help, Guardian Prime admitted. But our programming was clear. Humanity had to rediscover the spaceflight on their own. They had to prove they were ready to meet their galactic family. Jessica looked around the dome at thousands of alien faces. Some still looked angry or confused. Others seemed amazed. Many appeared to be crying. "What happens now?" she asked. Guardian Prime's holographic avatar appeared beside the display. A simple geometric pattern that somehow conveyed warmth and wisdom. "Now you decide the future together," it said. "The Commonwealth is gone. The old Confederation is broken. But something new can be built from what remains." Ambassador Chenwei, Elena's father and the head of human diplomacy, stood up. "The United Earth government formally renounces any claim to ancient Commonwealth technology or territory. We're not here to reclaim an empire. We're here to meet our family." Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some aliens seemed relieved. Others appeared disappointed. But Chen continued. "We offer to share everything we learn about Commonwealth technology. Every archive we decode, every system we understand, every innovation we develop, it belongs to everyone." Dr. Theron of the Kethalari Empire stood up slowly. His species had been among the most upset by the revelations about their guided development. "For 3 months I have been angry," he said. "Angry that my people's achievements were not entirely our own, angry that we were managed like children." He paused, looking around the dome. "But I have also been studying the records. The E-Commonwealth could have conquered us easily. They could have enslaved us or exterminated us. Instead, they gave us the galaxy itself. They sacrificed their civilization so that we could have ours." More aliens stood up one by one. Representative Shah of the Veltar, Commander Sex of the Hijgamani Guard, even ancient council speaker Morak, who was old enough to remember the early days of the Confederation. "I propose," Theron continued, "that we build something new. Not a human empire or an alien confederation, but a true galactic community with humans and aliens as equal partners." Applause began slowly, then grew until the entire dome rang with the sound of hundreds of species showing approval in their own ways. Elena felt tears on her cheeks. This was what the Commonwealth had dreamed of: not human dominance, but cooperation between species that none of them could have imagined alone. Guardian Prime's avatar pulsed with what seemed like satisfaction. "We have one final gift from our creators." The display changed to show technical specifications that made Elena gasp. Faster than light communication across galactic distances. Medical technology that could extend any species' lifespan by centuries. Manufacturing systems that could build anything from pure energy. The Commonwealth's greatest achievements, Guardian Prime explained. Held in reserve until the galaxy was ready, until all species could benefit from them together. General Vore stood up from his seat. The proud military leader, who had wanted to destroy humanity 3 months ago, now looked almost humble. "I have a question," he said. "The defense network that protected us, will it remain active as long as it is needed?" Guardian Prime replied, "We will protect this community as we protected its individual parts from external threats, from internal conflicts, and from the dangerous technologies you will develop as you grow stronger." "Like parents watching over their children?" Forth asked. "Like gardeners tending a forest," Guardian Prime corrected. "You are not children anymore. You are a community of equals, free to make your own choices. We simply ensure that those choices don't lead to extinction." Over the following days, the Assembly worked out the framework for what they called the Galactic Alliance. Humans and aliens would share technology, resources, and knowledge. Ancient Commonwealth sites would be studied by joint teams. New colonies would be founded together. Most importantly, they established the principle that had guided the Commonwealth. The galaxy belonged to everyone. Elena stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime on the final day of the assembly, watching ships from dozens of species prepare to return home. They carried news of the Alliance and plans for a future that none of them could have built alone. "Do you think it will work?" Jessica asked, joining her daughter at the viewing window. Elena watched a human transport docking with a Cathari research vessel. Human and alien scientists would work together to understand technologies that had been lost for 60,000 years. The Commonwealth thought it would, she said. They gave up everything they had built to make this possible. And the Guardian AI, do you trust them? Elena considered the question. In the 3 months since Guardian Prime had revealed itself, the AI network had done nothing but help. It had prevented conflicts, shared information, and protected everyone equally. I think they're doing exactly what they were programmed to do, she said, protecting sapient life and helping civilizations grow. The Commonwealth may be gone, but their values live on in their guardians. Above them, the ancient defense network continued its silent watch. Across the galaxy, monitoring stations recorded the birth of new stars and the development of young civilizations that didn't even know they existed yet. The Commonwealth had dreamed of a galaxy where hundreds of species worked together as equals. Now, 60,000 years after their sacrifice, that dream was finally coming true. The Watchers had returned home to find they were no longer alone. And in learning they had always been part of a family, both humans and aliens discovered they were capable of becoming something greater than either could have achieved alone. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such fear. Thousands of alien beings filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a storm of panic that echoed through the crystal walls. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy sat in their designated areas. But today, no one cared about protocol or proper seating. Ambassador Vex stood at the center podium, his blue skin pale with terror. The Ryan Federation had always been known for their calm nature. But today, Vex's hands shook as he held the datapad containing the worst news the galaxy had heard in 1,000 years. The Void Leviathan is awake, Vex announced, his voice barely steady. Our deep space monitors detected its movement 3 days ago in the Omega Nebula. It has already consumed the Kepler-7 system completely. A wave of gasps and frightened whispers swept through the chamber. Every species in the galaxy knew the ancient stories. The Void Leviathan was not just a monster, it was death itself wrapped in scales and fury. For 1,000 years it had slept in the dark corners of space, and the galaxy had grown comfortable in its silence. Admiral C of the Zenturi Empire stood up from his seat. His people were warriors known throughout the galaxy for their powerful warships and advanced weapons. But even CS looked defeated as he spoke. We sent our entire Fifth Fleet to investigate, C said, his voice heavy with loss. 30 of our best ships equipped with quantum torpedoes and plasma cannons. The beast destroyed them all in less than 10 minutes. The chamber erupted into chaos. If the mighty Zenturi fleet could not even slow down the creature, what hope did anyone have? Commander Yex of the Alterran Republic raised her tentacled arm for attention. Our scientists studied the attack recordings from your fleet, she said to Cause. The creature's hide absorbed every energy weapon you fired. Plasma quantum energy fusion beams, nothing worked. The beast seemed to grow stronger with each attack. Dr. Null from the Scientific Union stepped forward. He was a small, gray being with large eyes that held vast knowledge. Asterisk. According to our analysis, the Void Leviathan feeds on stellar energy. Each star system it devours makes it bigger and more powerful. At its current size, it masses approximately 12 million tons and measures over 15 kilometers in length. The numbers brought a deadly silence to the chamber. 15 kilometers of pure destruction, moving through space like a living nightmare. President Kor of the Draconian Alliance slammed his clawed fist on his seat. My people have faced dragons that could melt planets with their breath. We sent our proudest warriors in, our strongest ships. The monster tore through our adamantium halls like they were made of paper. More reports came in rapid succession. The peaceful Elvari had tried to communicate with the beast using their advanced telepathic abilities, only to have their minds burned by the creature's alien thoughts. The tech-savvy Greys had attempted to use their most sophisticated AI-controlled drone swarms, but the Leviathan had somehow turned the machines against their creators. Captain Rex of the Trade Federation stood up, his merchant's robes trembling. It's not just our military ships, he said with horror. The beast hunts everything. Our fastest cargo vessels, our smallest scout ships, nothing can outrun it. When it moves between systems, it travels faster than our best hyperdrives. The reality hit everyone at once. This was not just about military defeat. The Void Leviathan was hunting down everything that moved in space. No one was safe. Elder Moss of the Ancient Council spoke with a voice that carried the weight of centuries. In the old records, there are stories of the last time this creature woke. It devoured 47 star systems before our ancestors managed to put it back to sleep. But those ancient weapons are lost to us now. We don't know how they did it. Ambassador Tour of the Crystal Beings projected holographic images above the center of the chamber. The images showed the aftermath of the Leviathan's attacks, empty space where star systems used to be, floating debris where planets once orbited their suns. Look at this data, Tor said, his crystalline voice ringing with despair. The creature is not random in its attacks. It's moving in a pattern heading toward the core systems where our largest populations live. At its current speed, it will reach the Centauri hub in 6 days. The Centauri hub was home to over 50 billion beings from dozens of different species. It was the heart of galactic civilization, where trade, diplomacy, and culture all came together. The thought of losing it sent waves of terror through every representative. General Hark of the warrior clan stood up, his battle-scarred face grim. We propose a united attack. Every species contributes their strongest ships. We hit the beast with everything we have all at once. With what weapons? Admiral CS shot back. We've already proven that energy weapons only make it stronger. Our matter disruptors can't penetrate its hide. Even our singularity bombs barely left marks on its surface. Dr. Null nodded sadly. The creature seems to have evolved over millions of years to be immune to the types of weapons we use. Its cellular structure actually converts energy attacks into food for its continued growth. The chamber fell into hopeless silence. For centuries, the various species had competed to create more advanced weapons, more sophisticated technology, more elegant solutions to warfare. Now all that advancement seemed useless against this ancient enemy. Counselor Vex looked around the chamber with desperate eyes. Does anyone have any other suggestions? Any technology we haven't tried, any weapon that might work? The silence stretched on. Representatives looked at each other, but no one had answers. The greatest minds in the galaxy were stumped by a problem that threatened to end civilization itself. Then from the back corner of the chamber, a small voice spoke up. What about the humans? Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Representative Dale from Earth, one of the newest members of the Galactic Council. The humans had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, and most species still considered them primitive newcomers. Laughter rippled through some sections of the chamber, but it was nervous laughter, the kind that comes from desperation rather than humor. The humans, Admiral Cass asked with surprise. Their ships still use chemical rockets and metal projectiles. They barely have faster than light travel. Their weapons are thousands of years behind ours, added Commander Yex. They still fight with explosives and kinetic force. But Representative Dale didn't back down. Maybe that's exactly what we need, he said quietly. Everyone here has tried advanced energy weapons. Maybe it's time to try something the beast has never seen before. The chamber fell silent again. But this time it was a different kind of silence. For the first time since the crisis began, someone had offered a new idea, no matter how unlikely it seemed. Ambassador Vex stared at the human representative for a long moment. You really think your species could succeed where we have all failed? Dale looked around at all the advanced alien civilizations, then nodded slowly. We'd like to try. The emergency meeting room in the Pentagon was filled with Earth's top military leaders. President Kane sat at the head of the long table studying the holographic display that showed the void, Leviathan's path of destruction. The alien data had arrived just 2 hours ago, and already the room buzzed with tense discussion. 15 kilometers long, muttered General Brooks, shaking his head. That thing is bigger than Manhattan Island, and it eats star systems for breakfast. Secretary of Defense Miller leaned forward in her chair. The aliens are desperate. Did you see how their council meeting ended? Species that have been fighting each other for centuries are now begging for help from anyone who will listen. Admiral Taylor pulled up the combat footage on his tablet. Look at this Centauri attack. Their plasma cannons hit that monster dead center, and the damn thing just absorbed the energy like a sponge. 30 warships gone in 10 minutes. Captain Reed of the Earth Defense Force stood up and walked to the display. He was a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, known for thinking outside the box. Maybe that's the problem right there, he said, pointing at the screen. Every alien species we know uses energy weapons. Plasma lasers, quantum torpedoes, all different forms of directed energy. Your point, Captain President Kane asked. Reed, touch the hologram, zooming in on the monster-scarred hide. Look at the damage patterns. Every energy weapon leaves these smooth-heeled marks. But see this section here. He pointed to a small area that looked different. This rough, torn section came from debris impact when one of their ships exploded. Physical damage seems to stick. Dr. Morgan from the Weapons Research Division nodded thoughtfully. The alien reports say the creature's biology converts energy into food. But kinetic force, raw physical impact, that's different physics entirely. Are you suggesting we fight a space monster with bullets? General Brooks asked with disbelief. Not just bullets, Reed replied, his eyes lighting up with possibility. Railguns, mass drivers, good old-fashioned explosives, everything the aliens consider primitive. The room fell quiet as everyone considered this. Colonel Hayes, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Our ships are built completely different from theirs, too. Alien vessels are all smooth curves and energy shields. Ours are flying tanks, thick armor, redundant systems, compartmentalized hulls. Because we never developed proper shield technology, Miller pointed out. Right, Hayes continued. But maybe that's an advantage here. When their shields fail, their ships are helpless. When our armor gets hit, we keep fighting. President Kane studied the faces around the table. Are you people seriously suggesting that Earth's primitive military could succeed where the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy have failed? Dr. Morgan pulled out her own tablet and started running calculations. Our heaviest battleships carry 16-inch railguns that can fire tungsten slugs at 12% light speed. The kinetic energy from just one shot would equal a small nuclear bomb. And unlike energy weapons, there's no way to absorb or deflect solid matter traveling that fast. Captain Reed walked over to the wall display showing Earth's fleet. The EDF has been designing ships for war against other humans. We build them tough, ugly, and mean. Look at the Defiance-class battleships, 2 feet of composite armor, internal blast doors every 50 meters, emergency life support in every section. They look like flying fortresses compared to alien ships, agreed Admiral Taylor. When I visited the Centauri home fleet last year, their ships were beautiful. All flowing lines and crystal surfaces, but one good hit and they're done. General Brooks was warming up to the idea. Our point defense systems are basically machine guns in space. The aliens laughed at them during the technology exchange. But what if that monster launches some kind of attack swarm? Exactly, Reed said excitedly. Remember the Battle of Europa Station? When the Martian rebels used those fast attack drones? Our Gatling cannon system shredded them. The aliens' precise energy weapons couldn't track that many small, fast targets. Dr. Morgan looked up from her calculations. I'm reading about this creature's hunting pattern. It doesn't just destroy ships. It hunts them down one by one. That suggests intelligence, but also suggests it's used to fighting enemies that run away or fight at long range. And we don't do either of those things, Colonel Hayes said with a grim smile. Human military doctrine has always been close with the enemy and destroy them. President Kane leaned back in his chair. Let me get this straight. You want to send our fleet to fight a monster that just destroyed the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. And your plan is to get close and hit it with kinetic weapons. That's exactly what we're suggesting, sir, Reed replied. Look, we know our technology isn't as advanced as theirs, but it's different. This creature has probably been awake for millions of years throughout galactic history. It's evolved to counter energy weapons, long-range combat, and elegant alien tactics, but it's never fought humans. Admiral Taylor brought up the fleet roster. We have 47 heavy warships currently operational. The aliens sent 30 ships and got wiped out. Are we talking about a suicide mission here? Maybe Reed admitted. But consider this. Those 30 alien ships probably never got closer than 1,000 kilometers to the target. They fired their weapons from maximum range and tried to retreat when they failed. That's textbook alien military thinking. And textbook human military thinking, the president asked. Get in close, hit hard, and keep hitting until the enemy is dead, General Brooks answered. Even if it kills us. Dr. Morgan stood up and activated the room's main display. I've been working on something that might help. Project Harpoon nuclear-tipped penetrator rounds designed to punch through heavy armor before detonating inside the target. The display showed technical drawings of massive barbed projectiles. We originally designed these for bunker busting on fortified worlds, but against a biological target this size. You want to shoot nuclear harpoons at it, Miller said slowly. Aliens would never think of such a crude approach, Morgan replied. Their weapons are all about precision and efficiency. Ours are about making the biggest explosion possible. Captain Reed walked back to the hologram of the monster. There's something else. Look at how it moves. It's graceful, almost elegant. That suggests it's used to fighting in open space where maneuverability matters. But our ships are built for close quarters, combat in asteroid fields, and around planets. You think we can outmaneuver it? President Kane asked. I think we can get close enough that maneuverability doesn't matter when you're ramming distance. It doesn't matter how elegant you are. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Finally, General Brooks spoke up. So our plan is to volunteer for what every alien in the galaxy considers a suicide mission. Get closer to this monster than anyone else has dared and try to kill it with weapons they consider obsolete. That's the plan, Reed confirmed. President Kane looked around the table one more time. And you all think this could work? Sir, Admiral Taylor said quietly. It's the only plan anyone has that hasn't already been tried and failed. The president stood up slowly. Then God help us all. Captain Reed, prepare the fleet. We're going monster hunting. As the meeting broke up, Dr. Morgan caught Reed's arm. You really think we can do this? Reed looked at the hologram of the Void Leviathan one more time. Doc, we're either about to save the galaxy or we're about to show them how humans die. Either way, it's going to be one hell of a fight. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, and Admiral Stone felt his breath catch in his throat. Where 3 planets should have been orbiting the system star, there was nothing but empty space and floating debris. The Void Leviathan had eaten everything. Jesus Christ, whispered Captain Blake from the destroyer Vengeance. His voice carried over the fleet communication channel, speaking what everyone was thinking. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, watching the scanner readings with growing unease. Sensors, what do you have, sir? We're detecting massive energy readings from behind the gas giant, reported Lieutenant Ford. Whatever's back there is putting out more power than our entire fleet combined. All ships battle stations, Stone commanded. Remember the plan. Stay close, hit hard, and don't let that thing get away from us. The 47 ships of Earth's fleet moved into attack formation. Unlike the graceful alien vessels with their smooth curves and shimmering hulls, the human ships looked like what they were: instruments of war. Thick armor plating covered every surface. Weapon ports bristled from their hulls like the spines of angry sea creatures. Captain Reed, aboard the heavy cruiser Hammer, checked his weapon status. Railguns loaded with tungsten penetrators. Nuclear torpedoes armed and ready. Point defense systems online. This is it, people. Admiral Stone announced to the fleet, every alien navy in the galaxy has failed. Today we find out what humans can do. The gas giant rotated slowly in space, and something began to emerge from behind it. At first it looked like a dark shadow against the planet's swirling clouds. Then the shadow kept growing and growing until the human crews realized they were looking at something that defied their understanding of life itself. The Void Leviathan was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Its body stretched for 15 kilometers, covered in scales that shifted color like oil on water. Massive tentacles, each thicker than a battleship, trailed behind it as it moved through space with impossible grace. Along its sides, bioluminescent patches pulsed with energy absorbed from the system's dying star. My God, breathed Captain West from the Frigg Thunder. How do you kill something like that? The monster's head was the size of a small city with eyes like burning stars that seemed to look directly at each human ship. When it opened its mouth, they could see rows of teeth that looked like crystallized space itself, each one sharp enough to cut through reality. All ships opened fire, Admiral Stone commanded. The human fleet erupted in violence. Railguns fired tungsten slugs at incredible speeds, creating lines of light that crossed the space between the ships and the monster in seconds. Nuclear torpedoes streaked through the void, leaving trails of fire. Traditional kinetic cannons hammered away with explosive shells. The Void Leviathan reacted with surprise. For the first time in eons, something had actually hurt it. Several of the railgun slugs punched completely through its hide, leaving ragged holes that leaked strange glowing fluid into space. The monster's roar could not be heard in the vacuum of space, but every human felt it in their bones. A vibration that seemed to shake the very fabric of reality. The creature's eyes focused on the human fleet with new interest. These strange, ugly ships were different from the others it had hunted. Direct hit on the port flank, reported Lieutenant Ross from the Defiance. Railgun penetrated approximately 50 meters into the target, but the Leviathan was already moving faster than something that large should be able to move. Its tentacles whipped through space, and one of them slammed into the destroyer Lightning. The ship's armor crumpled like paper, but the crew inside kept fighting. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, Captain Mills reported from the Lightning. But our main guns are still operational. This was the difference between human and alien ships. An alien vessel would have been destroyed instantly by such damage. The human ship, built like a fortress, continued to fight even with massive structural damage. The Leviathan launched its own attack. Beams of pure energy that would have vaporized any alien ship. But the human vessels had been built to fight. Other humans who also used energy weapons. Oz's thick armor plating absorbed much of the blast, and redundant systems kept the ships operational. Energy attack absorbed by primary armor, reported Captain Blake. Some surface damage, but all systems green. The monster seemed confused. Its energy attacks, which had destroyed entire alien fleets, were barely slowing down these primitive vessels. It tried a different approach, sending waves of smaller energy bursts at the human ships. This was where Earth's primitive point defense systems proved their worth. Gatling cannons designed to shoot down missiles and attack craft-filled space with streams of bullets. The energy bursts meant to overwhelm sophisticated alien defense systems were shredded by simple machine gun fire. Point defenses holding shouted Commander Davis from the cruiser Fury. "Whatever this thing is throwing at us, our guns are eating it up." Captain Reed saw his chance. The hammer was closest to the monster's wounded flank, where the railgun shots had torn through its hide. "All ships concentrate fire on the damaged area. Let's see how deep we can go." The human fleet focused their fire on the wounds they had already created. More railgun slugs punched through the holes, widening them. Nuclear torpedoes detonated inside the creature's body, causing massive internal damage. The Void Leviathan writhed in pain and rage. It had never experienced anything like this. These strange ships refused to keep their distance. They kept getting closer, hitting harder, causing more damage with each attack. "It's bleeding," Lieutenant Ford announced with excitement. "That glowing stuff pouring out. It has to be some kind of blood." The monster tried to grab the nearest human ship with one of its massive tentacles. The cruiser Iron Fist disappeared in the creature's grip, but even as it was being crushed, the ship's crew kept firing their weapons point blank into the tentacle. "This is Captain Smith. We're going down, but we're taking a piece of this thing with us." The Iron Fist exploded, its nuclear reactors overloading in a brilliant flash. The explosion tore off the end of the Leviathan's tentacle, sending the massive appendage spinning away into space. "First blood to humanity," Admiral Stone announced. All ships pressed the attack, but the Leviathan was learning. It began to focus its attacks on one ship at a time, trying to overwhelm their defenses through sheer concentration of force. The destroyer sword took the full force of the monster's energy beam and simply vanished in a flash of light. "We're losing ships," Captain Reed reported grimly, "but we're hurting it more than anyone else has." The battle raged on, with human ships darting in and out like angry hornets attacking a giant. Their weapons, crude by alien standards, were proving devastatingly effective against the monster's biology. Each kinetic hit caused real damage that the creature couldn't simply absorb or heal. Captain West made a desperate attack run in the frigate Thunder, getting so close to the monster that his ship was actually scraping against its hide. His point-blank rail gunshots punched deep into the creature's body, causing massive internal damage. "This is how you fight a monster," West shouted over the comm as his ship pulled away. "You get close enough to smell its breath." The Void Leviathan, ancient terror of the galaxy, found itself in a kind of fight it had never experienced. These humans didn't run. They didn't try to fight from a safe distance. They came straight at it, trading damage for damage, and their crude weapons were actually working. For the first time in millions of years, the Void Leviathan felt something it had almost forgotten: fear. The battle had been raging for 2 hours, and space around the Void Leviathan was filled with wreckage from both sides. 7 human ships had been destroyed, but the monster was bleeding from dozens of wounds. Its beautiful scales were cracked and torn, leaking that strange glowing fluid into the void. Admiral Stone studied the tactical display on his command screen. The creature was adapting to their attacks, learning to dodge the railgun shots and counter their torpedo runs, but it still seemed confused by human tactics. "Captain Reed, report," Stone ordered through the communication system. "Sir, we've confirmed that kinetic weapons work," Reed replied from the hammer. "But this thing is tough. We're going to need something bigger to finish it." Commander West had an idea that would have horrified any alien military leader. His frigate Thunder had taken heavy damage, and his engines were failing. Instead of retreating for repairs, he was planning something that went against every rule of space combat. "Admiral, request permission for a kamikaze run," West said calmly. The communication channel went silent. "Even among humans, using your ship as a guided missile was considered a last resort." "Explain your plan, Commander," Stone replied. West's voice was steady despite the chaos around him. "My ship is dying anyway, but I can load her up with every nuclear warhead we have and ram it straight into that thing's biggest wound, if I can get the nukes to detonate inside its body." "That's suicide," West Captain Blake interrupted from the Vengeance. "Maybe," West admitted, "but I've got an escape pod, and if this works, it might give us the opening we need." Admiral Stone considered the proposal. In any alien military, such a tactic would be unthinkable, but humans had always been willing to sacrifice themselves for victory. Permission granted, Stone decided. All ships cover Commander West's approach. What happened next amazed even the human crews. West's damaged frigate, loaded with every nuclear weapon it could carry, began its final attack run. The other ships provided covering fire their railguns and cannons, keeping the monster's attention divided. The Void Leviathan saw the small ship approaching and tried to swat it away with one of its tentacles. But West was flying his ship like a fighter pilot, dodging and weaving between the massive appendages. Almost there, West reported getting ready to eject the frigate, slammed into the creature's largest wound at full speed. West's escape pod shot out just seconds before impact. The ship buried itself deep inside the monster's body, and then every nuclear warhead aboard detonated simultaneously. The explosion lit up the entire star system. The Void Leviathan convulsed in agony as the nuclear fire burned through its internal organs. For the first time since the battle began, the creature let out a sound that the humans could actually hear, a psychic scream that made their ears ring. Direct hit, Lieutenant Ford shouted from the Defiance. Massive internal damage to the target, but the explosion had done something else. The monster's body was now glowing brighter, the bioluminescent patches along its sides pulsing with increased energy. Captain Reed realized what was happening. "It's absorbing the nuclear energy," he warned. "The explosion is making it stronger." This was the creature's ancient defense mechanism. It could absorb energy-based attacks and convert them into power for its own use. But the physical damage from the explosion, the torn flesh, the ruptured organs that remained, Admiral Stone saw the opportunity. All ships focus on the physical damage. Use kinetic weapons only. No energy weapons, no explosives that create energy bursts. The human fleet adapted quickly. Railguns fired solid tungsten slugs into the creature's wounds. Kinetic cannons launched heavy metal projectiles. Some ships even fired old-fashioned bullets from their point defense systems. Anything that would cause physical trauma without releasing energy. Captain Smith in the heavy cruiser Sledgehammer came up with the next crazy idea. His ship carried mining equipment for asteroid operations. Massive drills designed to bore through solid rock. "Admiral requesting permission to try something stupid," Smith announced. "Go ahead," Captain Stone replied. By now he had learned to trust his officers' unconventional thinking. Smith maneuvered his ship close to one of the monster's tentacles and activated the mining drill. The massive boring tool designed to cut through asteroids began grinding into the Leviathan's flesh. The creature tried to shake the ship off, but Smith held on like a bulldog. "It's working," Smith reported excitedly. "This drill is cutting through its hide like butter." Other captains began copying the tactic. Ships with mining equipment and construction tools, even emergency cutting torches, began attacking the monster at close range. The Void Leviathan found itself being literally carved apart by industrial equipment. Lieutenant Ross aboard the destroyer, Justice, made the next breakthrough. His ship carried a new experimental weapon, a magnetic harpoon gun designed for capturing space pirates. "Sir, what if we use the harpoons to hold it still?" Ross suggested. "If we can anchor this thing in place, our big guns can target its weak spots." "Do it," Admiral Stone ordered. The Justice fired its magnetic harpoons into the creature's flesh. The barbed projectiles buried deep and held fast. Other ships began copying the tactic, using every kind of anchor cable and magnetic clamp they could find. Soon the Void Leviathan was partially trapped by dozens of cables and harpoons. The monster thrashed wildly, trying to break free, but the human ships held on with grim determination. "Now we've got it where we want it," Captain Blake announced from the Vengeance. "Close range can't run away, and we know where to hit it." The human fleet moved into point-blank range, so close that some ships were actually touching the monster's hide. At this distance, their weapons couldn't miss. Railgun slugs punched through the creature's armor and exploded inside its body. Kinetic cannons fired continuously, turning sections of the monster into hamburger. But the Leviathan wasn't finished. In its rage and pain, it began to glow brighter than ever before. The absorbed energy from earlier attacks was building up to a massive release. Energy buildup detected. Lieutenant Ford warned, "This thing is about to blow." The creature was preparing to release all its stored energy in one devastating attack. Enough power to destroy the entire human fleet in a single blast. Captain Reed saw the danger and made a desperate decision. "All ships with nuclear torpedoes fire everything into its mouth. If it's building up energy, let's give it indigestion." 6 ships fired their remaining nuclear torpedoes directly into the monster's open mouth. The weapons disappeared down its throat and detonated inside its body. The creature's energy buildup became unstable, causing internal explosions that tore it apart from within. "It's working," shouted Commander Davis from the Fury. "The thing is tearing itself apart." The Void Leviathan writhed in space, its own absorbed energy now working against it. The nuclear explosions inside its body were causing chain reactions, making its bioluminescent organs overload and explode. But even as it died, the monster had one last attack. With its remaining strength, it wrapped its tentacles around the nearest human ship, Admiral Stone's flagship, the Defiance. Hull breach on all decks, reported Lieutenant Ford as the ship's armor began to buckle. "We're being crushed." Admiral Stone looked around his damaged bridge and made a command decision that would become legend. "All hands abandon ship, set the reactors to overload. If this thing wants to hug us, let's give it something to remember." The crew of the Defiance evacuated to escape pods as their ship's nuclear reactors began an uncontrolled meltdown. The Void Leviathan, still holding the ship in its death grip, was about to get a very unpleasant surprise. The Defiance exploded in a brilliant flash of nuclear fire while still trapped in the Void Leviathan's tentacles. The explosion tore through the monster's appendages and sent waves of destruction through its massive body. Admiral Stone and his crew watched from their escape pods as their ship died, taking a huge piece of the creature with it. Admiral Stone, to all ships came his voice over the emergency channel. "I'm still alive, and this fight isn't over. Captain Reed, you have command of the fleet." The remaining 38 human ships regrouped around their floating admiral. The Void Leviathan was badly wounded, now missing 2 tentacles and bleeding from dozens of holes. But it was still alive, still dangerous, and still 15 kilometers of pure alien nightmare. Captain Reed aboard the Hammer studied the monster through his ship's sensors. "All ships, listen up. This thing is hurt bad, but it's not dead. We need to finish it before it recovers or runs away." The creature was indeed trying to escape. It began moving toward the edge of the star system, hoping to reach deep space where it could heal and plan its revenge. But the human ships pursued it like angry hornets, continuing their relentless attack. Captain Blake and the Vengeance noticed something important. Look at its movement pattern. Every time we hit that glowing spot near its head, the whole beast staggers. I think that might be its brain or heart. The glowing organ was partially visible through a massive wound the humans had torn in the creature's side. It pulsed with the same bioluminescent light as the rest of the monster, but brighter and more regular. "That's our target," Reed decided. "All heavy ships form up for a coordinated strike. We're going to punch right through to that organ." But the Leviathan sensed the danger. It coiled its remaining tentacles around its wounded side, protecting the vital organ. The humans would have to fight through its defenses to reach their target. Commander Davis aboard the cruiser Fury had a plan. "Sir, what if we use ourselves as bait? Get in close, make it grab us, then the other ships can hit it while it's distracted." It was another suicidal tactic, but Reed was learning that sometimes crazy plans work best against impossible enemies. "Do it, Commander, but make sure you can break free when the shooting starts." The Fury flew straight at the monster's head, firing its weapons point blank into the creature's eyes. The Leviathan, enraged by the attack, wrapped its tentacles around the small cruiser and began crushing it. "Now," Reed shouted. The remaining heavy ships opened fire with everything they had. Railguns sent tungsten slugs screaming through space at incredible speed. The projectiles punched through the monster's tentacles and buried themselves deep in its body, seeking the glowing organ. Captain Smith and the Sledgehammer made a desperate attack run, flying his ship directly into one of the creature's wounds. His mining drill, still spinning from the earlier battle, carved through internal organs as he flew through the monster's body like a bullet. "I'm inside this thing," Smith reported with amazement. "I can see the target organ. It's huge." Smith fired his ship's entire ammunition supply into the organ at point-blank range. Hundreds of kinetic rounds tore through the creature's most vital system. The Void Leviathan convulsed as its central nervous system began to fail. But the monster had one final surprise. As it died, its body began to collapse in on itself, creating a gravitational anomaly that threatened to crush everything nearby. The creature was so massive that its death was creating a temporary black hole. "All ships emergency burn," Reed commanded. "Get away from that thing before the gravity well collapses." The human ships fired their engines at maximum power, racing against time and physics. Several ships were caught on the edge of the gravitational field and began to be pulled back toward the dying monster. Captain West, who had survived his earlier kamikaze run, made one last sacrifice. His rescue shuttle flew back toward the gravity well and used its small nuclear engine as a bomb, creating an explosion that disrupted the field just long enough for the other ships to escape. "West, you crazy bastard!" Reed shouted as he watched the shuttle disappear into the collapsing space around the monster. "Tell them how humans die." West's voice came over the radio just before his signal was lost forever. The Void Leviathan, ancient terror of the galaxy, finally succumbed to its wounds. Its massive body stopped moving, stopped glowing, stopped being the nightmare that had haunted civilizations for millions of years. The creature that had devoured star systems and destroyed the most advanced fleets in the galaxy was dead. killed by a species that still used gunpowder and metal bullets. The surviving human ships gathered in a loose formation, their hulls scarred and their crews exhausted. Of the 47 ships that had entered the battle, only 31 remained, but they had accomplished what no other species thought possible. "This is Captain Reed to all ships," came the tired but triumphant voice. "Mission accomplished. The Void Leviathan is dead." 3 days later, the human fleet limped into the Century Hub to a reception unlike anything in galactic history. Every species in the Council had ships waiting to escort the battered Earth vessels to the station. Alien crews lined the windows of their ships, staring in amazement at the humans who had done the impossible. Admiral Stone, rescued from his escape pod, stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The same chamber that had been filled with panic and despair just days before was now packed with representatives, cheering and applauding. Ambassador Vex of the Rian Federation stood at the podium with tears in his blue eyes. "The debt the galaxy owes to humanity cannot be measured," he announced. "Where we failed with our most advanced weapons, you succeeded with courage and determination." Elder Moss of the Ancient Council spoke with wonder in his ancient voice. "In all our histories, in all our legends, no one has ever defeated the Void Leviathan in single combat. Your species has written a new chapter in galactic history." Admiral Stone stepped forward to address the council. His uniform was still stained with smoke, and his face bore the marks of battle. But he stood proud and straight. "Honored representatives," Stone began, "we didn't win because our technology was better. We won because we were willing to do whatever it took to protect innocent lives. That's what humans do. We fight for those who can't fight for themselves." Captain Reed, standing beside his admiral, added his own thoughts. "Our weapons weren't more advanced than yours. Our ships weren't faster or stronger. But we had something that monster had never faced before: the refusal to give up no matter how bad things got." Ambassador Dale from Earth smiled as he watched his species being honored by the galaxy. "We've learned that sometimes the most sophisticated solution isn't the best solution. Sometimes you need to get your hands dirty and fight like your life depends on it." The celebration continued for hours, but eventually the formal ceremonies ended and the real conversations began. Representatives from dozens of species approached the human delegation with new respect and new questions. Admiral CS of the Zenturi Empire, who had lost his entire fleet to the monster, shook Stone's hand with genuine admiration. "Your people have taught us something important about warfare. We had become too dependent on our technology, too comfortable with fighting from a distance." Dr. Null from the Scientific Union was fascinated by the human approach. "Your kinetic weapons, your close combat tactics, your willingness to sacrifice individual ships for the greater good. And these concepts will revolutionize military thinking throughout the galaxy." As the humans prepared to return to Earth, they left behind more than just the corpse of an ancient monster. They had shown the galaxy that advancement wasn't always about having the newest technology or the most elegant solutions. Sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem was to get close enough to hit it with a very big stick. The voyage home was quiet, filled with thoughts of fallen comrades and the magnitude of what they had accomplished. The humans had saved the galaxy not through superior technology, but through the simple human conviction that some fights are worth dying for. As Captain Reed looked out at the stars, he smiled. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were redesigning their military doctrines, building tougher ships, and learning that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy not as the most advanced species, but as the one species that would never ever give up.